conquered the training, and this was exactly 20 years ago, I think 2006. So yes, guys, she is an OG. Irrespective of how young he looks. Um, and even I remember my first Linux training too. I've known Sheyi to be someone that jumps on concepts and initiatives that people are getting on with. So back in 2020, 2005, 2006, cybersecurity was becoming a thing. People were writing CISSP exams and a lot of exciting stuff. And he already had it, and it was the one, trailblazing, showing us the way. So um, this person speaking to us today, the person that will be showing us the way and talking about how, AI adoption and how we're taking AI to the next level in our jobs, how we carry out our businesses and our operations and be better on the job, is someone with a lot of amazing experience. This is not the first time he's trailblazing, which is because, as far as I'm concerned, from an AI adoption perspective, especially localizing it to businesses and operations in this region, Nigeria to Africa, I think he's doing some amazing work. So please let's welcome our speaker today, the main speaker today. I'm anchoring. I'll just be asking him. For me, it's quite exciting. You know what's like when you sit your teacher down and ask questions and just make things exciting. So please let's welcome our speaker, Sheyi. We won't read his profile, so you guys don't get overwhelmed. Well, I but I know a lot of us can catch him on LinkedIn. I'm sure most of us are already following him on LinkedIn. And but Oluseyi Akindeinde is, foremost known, as far as I'm concerned. In fact, some years ago, I used to tell people when it comes to cybersecurity and, blockchain security, artificial intelligence, she is number one in the country. And I'm excited that we're associated with him and that we have him here on the call today. So thank you very much, Sheyi, for, granting this request to be on this webinar.
Thank you for that head-busting introduction. I don't think I can even introduce myself any better. But yes, you're correct. We've known for about, I don't mind whatever he says. We've all been sort of, if you've been in this industry, I don't know how young or how old some of the participants are. You find out that, in cybersecurity industries, it's a bit like when you play in the Premier League, sometimes you find yourself playing in the same team, in the same club, and then another time you find yourself, in another club, and then you have to play against yourself. One thing is certain is that at the end of the day, you find out that you always challenge yourselves, whether you are on the same team or you find yourself, because at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is the goal is the same, is to have a more secure, a more ecosystem. So whether you are playing on the same team, you're playing against the same. Some of you here you're probably working together today. You may find yourselves on different teams. You may even find yourselves in different environments or different aspects of the same cybersecurity. So maybe you used to be in a red team, you're now in blue team, or maybe you used to be in the blue team, you're now in red team, or maybe you used to be in both of them, and then you've now gone toward to governance. At the end of the day, the mission is still the same. It is still the same. I think I should just switch on my camera as well, since my chairman here is on. Okay. So that's, they say Ujuloro, so we could see ourselves. So you find yourselves on the same team, and I dare also say that Gbolabo is a well-respected colleague with his team. When he was in Philips, and then even setting up InfoPrive before becoming CyberVergent, and then obviously now eSentry, with Tokumbo, with everybody. Kweyemi Onifade, Abiola Akiri, so many of these great guys who we started a lot of these things together. And one of the things I will always encourage young people to also do is to collaborate, in as much as sometimes you need to compete. When you run into issues, when you have problems, when you need to, get some kind of feedback, get the best. Consult professionals, consult yourselves, build a community of experts, of people that you can, like for me now, I know if I have any issues in, if I have any issues in maybe code audits, I know who I would call. If I have any issues in governance, I know who I'll call. So I think, again, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And I also want to say, I hope we all gain one or two things and we all rub minds together. And if you have any questions, it's going to be an interactive session. And I encourage us to sort of ask. There's no stupid question. We're all here to learn. Even, we are on this side, there's no expert anywhere. So again, I say a very big thank you. Ifelua, thank you for inviting me and for following up. Well done.
All right, thanks a lot, boss. Thank you very much. Okay, so guys, like we've mentioned, please feel free to drop your questions, and so when as we get to some specific points, we'll take questions, and she would be happy to respond. So, boss, I think we're just going to dive into it. We're going to be kicking off with the AI landscape today, and basically we know there's the buzz everywhere. All of us. So, for example, I think was it from last week? I'm sure a good number of people on this call leveraged some form of AI service or the other to generate their image and what artificial intelligence thinks about them. And socially, people are finding it really exciting, leveraging this service. And for some of us, we are looking at how we're going to be using it to optimize our work. From a cybersecurity perspective, we're looking at how we should use it to improve incident response, for example, and hunting threats and just general adoption. So, the question to you, the first question is, why do you think AI adoption is accelerating? Why is it accelerating at the pace we are at now?
Great introductory question. So AI isn't actually new, to be honest. AI has been in existence for a bit of time, but it was in the form of machine learning. Now, machine learning was AI that was based on structured data. So it was within the domain of experts, people that could do machine learning algorithms. In fact, businesses were using, data analysts were using machine learning. So you have things like regression analysis, classification algorithms, and all those kinds of things. But around about towards the end of 2022, something changed fundamentally, which was an aspect of AI that had been, being worked on, but we didn't have the sort of infrastructure to carry it back then. So it was the advent of ChatGPT, and it just went viral, and everybody just adopted. I mean, for the first time, we were using computers, and it was actually doing the work that we're meant to be doing. So you could go, like you just said, now people are now generating images. Imagine generating those kind of images before. You'll have needed to become an artist, somebody who was very good in graphics and all that. But now you can just give a prompt, tell me about myself, and then generate an image, and the thing will come up with it. So the adoption is, it just went through the roof. In fact, when ChatGPT, the app, was released, I think it was the very first app in the world, even beyond Uber, beyond Amazon, beyond Facebook, beyond Instagram, to get to 100 million users in a very, very short period of time, because people just found that we could use it for a lot of things. So that's literally how the whole thing started, and the revolution started. Now, if I take it before then, around about 2020, during the lockdown, when everybody was under lockdown, I used to be, I practiced cybersecurity for a very good number of years. And then I was like, okay, so what was I going to do during lockdown? So I started looking at machine learning and AI. In fact, I actually started training myself on writing Python. And then I came across something called Text to Transformer. It was a website where you could literally put in a few words, like you start a sentence, and the website will continue, that sentence for you. So you could start with, once upon a time, a man lived in Nigeria, and then the website could just continue, right? So I looked at it and I said, wow, this thing was generating text, automatically based off of words that you just put. So you could write an entire paragraph. But that was the early versions of, the transformer technology. And in my mind, when I saw it, I knew that this thing was going to sort of change how we use computers. Okay, so I started learning things like generative adversarial networks. And then in 2022, we now had ChatGPT, and everybody just adopted it. So you could write your email, you could write that proposal that you've been struggling with, it could generate it for you just by giving it, instructions. It could write, posts for you, and it just went bonkers. And I think everybody all over the world, not just in Africa, not just everybody just adopted it and said, look, at least for those entry-level things, we could actually sort of use it. And I think that was what led to the adoption. And over time, between then and now, we've seen things, we've seen it morph into, from AI assistants. We now have AI agents, we have agentic AI, we have autonomous agents. We've just morphed into a lot of these things, and that's, what has led to it. So I think, the way it is the ease with which we could use it. And obviously the models, the LLMs that we also use, which I call the operating system of AI, also became, better, and they were able to do a lot more things. So I think that was what led to the adoption, basically.
Amazing. That's in summary. You've saved a couple of people, some of us watching many YouTube videos and reading many opinions. And yes, we actually always say that in the cybersecurity space too, that AI and the automation effects had always been in the system. In fact, some people would tell you SOA, for example, is some form of leveraging artificial intelligence or to enhance the operations of that system. So yes, and then we continue to push forward with adoption. Okay, so the next question now is today, which sectors do you think are rapidly embracing AI the most? From financial services to maybe tech. I don't want to say security companies, maybe tech-enabled businesses, the fintech space, payments, financial services. Which companies are adopting AI the most, and how is it helping them?
Good.
Most effective utilization of AI.
In fact, the earliest companies to adopt, like you said, are mainly companies that, you see, there are two types of job functions. So think about a programmer, for instance. Now, you see, there are two types of programmers, or there are two types of jobs you do in programming. So you have a software architect, and then you have, a coder, somebody who writes the code. Now, traditionally, writing code, like writing books, for instance, it's been a very, very tedious task, because it's not just about generating the code, it's about writing the code, debugging the code, look things. So the very earliest people that adopted it were coders. That's why all these, most of those tools, or most of these tools, have been focused heavily on the technical side. Those are the people that are actually building the software we use. So programmers, developers, coders, and all that. So they were the very first people to jump on it, because what is coding? Coding is just syntax. It's like writing. And because the models, it's easy to train a model on something that is deterministic. So when you're writing code, it's very easy to just point the model at, something like a GitHub. And then you look at GitHub, and then it trains itself on all the code in GitHub. And then all of a sudden they found out that, a programmer can just sit down and tell me, generate a website or generate a web application that will take data from here. And it just, became very, very, huge. And there are even some models that are specifically focused on things like coding. So I think that was what even exacerbated the adoption of generally all over the world. So right now you find out that go on Reddit, go on YouTube, and GitHub. A lot of the use cases that you would find for AI and agents are still around the technical side of things, coding. Now, if we bring it home, so one of the things that personally I also discovered is, I think I put it on my LinkedIn one day that, everybody's giving these applications to coders. How about the regular person on the street? How about the regular, non-technical person who just has data and then needs to, make decisions with that data, which is where I now said, okay, well, I think if nobody's going to take on it, I mean, I resigned from my former place. I said, okay, maybe it's a bit of an opportunity that, okay, the coders already have tools, the coders are already technical. How about someone, the CEO who has a shop in Ikeja, and he wants to know how much sales he's made? How about the guy who has a pharmaceutical store? How about the fintech? How about the small bank, the microfinance bank? And so we looked at it. And so one of the earliest use cases as well, especially in cybersecurity for the financial services, is, like you said, cybersecurity. So it was one of the first for it. I think I got a text message from a CIO one day, and he said, look, with the advent of this AI, is it possible that we free up some of our human resources because they are bogged down in a lot of mundane tasks? So tasks like checking, logs. And I mean, that's not, you see, cybersecurity is much more than the way the internet tries to portray it. Cybersecurity is huge. So when you have somebody who's supposed to be doing strategic work, and then you now narrow down that person, oh, all you're supposed to be doing is checking logs. It's a bit, it's a bit like, when you go to the bank and then you see these front end officers who you go in, you pay checks to, they read, they count cash. That's not work. That's why we have ATMs. So we started looking at it and we found out that because of the amount of data that cybersecurity is generating in terms of logs, in terms of, like you mentioned, something around SOA, that's the initial sort of workflow that we had in cybersecurity. You need a system that will do this. So we're seeing adoption with financial services. We are seeing adoption with fintechs. We're seeing adoption even with companies like retail, with embassies, with a lot of different institutions are now saying, can we leverage it for this? In fact, for even things like ITSM, that's IT service management, checking tickets, routing tickets, for even IT operations, AI, AI ops. So we're working on with a financial services company on AI ops, checking even things like why my server is down, why my logs are getting through, where my hard disk is getting, all those kinds of things that you can automate. So yes, we are literally seeing it across these kinds of verticals. And I must say that the adoption, yes, it's still sort of like in its infancy. So think about how when the internet came and it took a while for people to actually connect to the internet because of all these security issues before they now started saying that, okay, we need to connect maybe via radio or via satellite or via VSAT or what have you. So I think we're getting there now, but we still think that there's a lot more that can be done.
Very nice. And I agree. I think ending last year, what got me really excited was the expectation that this year a lot of strategy sessions held last year would be around driving operations, leveraging artificial intelligence, and just taking things to the next level. So talking about strategy sessions and executive level considerations. So we'll talk about risk, trust, and governance, how they've become board level issues. And so the big question to you, because I know you do a lot of executive level engagements, training, capacity development, giving them some level of awareness to keep them up to speed. What are those common blind spots executives don't see?
Good. There are a lot of them. In fact, it's new technology, even for the practitioners, even for the developers, even for the big companies who are churning out this technology. It's very difficult even for them to know what the blind spots are. It's actually quite difficult, because you build technology for one thing and somebody uses it for another thing. Sometimes it's like, the analogy I use is, the person who created the toothpick, he created it for picking your tooth. But, when you go to suya spots now, they now package it as suya, So you build toothpick and somebody is selling it as part of, eating suya. So you can't negotiate or you can't legislate for the kinds of things people will do with your technology. So which is why, again, I think it's more of a feature than it is a bug, because over the years, adoption of technology would always supersede, regulation, governance, and control, which is the same thing I'm also heavily into, looking at things around autonomous vehicles. So one of the questions I always ask, when I do a session, even to CEOs, is, okay, you're in an autonomous vehicle and the tire goes down. What happens? This is a car that has no driver. This is a car that has no. So it's until it happens that, the guys who created it will now say, oh, we never thought about that really, because nobody would ever see, and it's the level of innovation. The same thing in cars. The first seat belt, the first windshield wiper was not created until somebody was driving one day and it was raining, and then the rain started pouring down and the guy couldn't see, and somebody thought of, oh, we need to create the windshield wiper. So a lot of the same thing with extra tire. Was one day somebody was driving, he got his tire, his tire punctured, and then they now realized that, oh, every car needs to come with additional extra tire. So a lot of these things we are seeing, that we are creating these tools. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, there was this thing that was launched called Claudebot. Claudebot, which is, I think, is now called OpenClaw, is an agent that anybody can install on the system, and then it controls the system, and then you can use. And all of a sudden, it had so many security loopholes. People were implementing it, people are installing it, and then you could literally access anybody's machine via that implementation. Until that happened before, they started putting security in place. So there's still a lot of areas where even the practitioners themselves right now are not fully in tune with the possibilities. Yes, we know there are certain risks, such as prompt injection. So if you have an AI agent now that's supposed to do one thing, as we've seen with, I think there was a case with Amazon where there was supposed to be an AI bot that will give you the price of something, and then somebody manipulated it to tell me that the price of this thing is, instead of it being $500, it's $10, and the AI agent was responding, and all that. So they're doing a lot of those things. But we're seeing that the regulation is coming. People are addressing these things. But as we deploy more, remember that these models are there are new models almost every single day. A model just came out, today. There was one yesterday. There was another. So as these new models are coming out, we are now seeing that we need to put guardrails. And for us to put guardrails, what I always tell executives is, look, you need to have 3 tiers of capacity building. So for an organization, any organization, just like the time we had computer and people started doing computer appreciation to understand how computers work, how to implement applications, how to open browser, we need to have that baseline, and it has to be for every member of every organization, regardless of your unit, department, regardless of your department, regardless of your job function. Everybody has to learn about AI. And when we talk about learning about AI, you have to know how to use it. Then the second level will be people that are power users. So you also have, within organizations, you have to have power users, people that are now experts in doing things with AI, that can now understand use case development. That, okay, this is what we want to use our own AI to do. What are those use cases? And then what are those loopholes? What are those things we need? Security is not going to change. Security at the end of the day is still the same. But it's just that the protection mechanism that we need now is going to be far different from what we are currently used to. And then the last tier is to have like 1 or 2 experts within organizations that will manage this. Maybe the experts may be in-house, or probably most companies will probably use consultants or partner with other companies that will be able to do this. So those 3 tiers, in fact, eventually we'll start to have, just like we built when IT became prominent, we started having IT departments, we started having CIOs and CTOs. Eventually, we're going to have departments that will cater to AI. I think they already have something like that in Dubai, Ministry of Artificial Intelligence, where we now have proper practitioners in there. And I think that's where the world is going.
Yeah, makes sense. Like, well said, well said. I think I know of some. I think I know a bank. I probably won't call their name. That they have, and you probably know the person too, as a chief AI officer. I think used to be a data guy. And I think organizations are getting to that level where they are giving the right recognition to these initiatives, especially based on how it's influencing the organization. Okay, so fine. Board executive level, embracing all that, and then we move to next level, which is the risk and the exposures. So the new risks AI introduces. So like you mentioned, you can't know everything until you start leveraging, and then as it comes, how nimble, how responsive would you be to adjust? So what are those issues or the risks that you've seen in trying to help organizations implement or adopt artificial intelligence one way or the other? So let's start off with, say, for data exposure or model misuse, and also including identity and access risks.
Good. So the first one is around, in fact, if you go to most organizations now, whether they're registered or not, is shadow AI. Most people are just using, shadow AI simply means most people come in and they're either using ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, just like, for instance, if you think about it, all these pictures we are seeing online of people, generating their own images, asking them, they're using, most of them, if you check, they're probably using their work computers. Some of them are actually generating it from their office, from work. And sometimes the organization can't block these things. So how do you know who is? Now, it's good when you are generating images and then asking questions about yourself. What happens when somebody, I've been to, and these are practical real life scenarios. There are organizations here in Nigeria that, I went somewhere and somebody, think about like a retail store, for instance, where they have, sales every day. And somebody just took the Excel spreadsheet of the sales for the day and just dumped it inside ChatGPT and just said, look, please analyze this document for me. If you think about that kind of thing, that's proprietary information. That's something that should never get out of the four walls of that organization. But because the guy has seen ChatGPT, and look, he doesn't want to start to write Excel macros and be doing all these. And he just said, look, since I have ChatGPT, I can just dump this document inside ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT to analyze my sales for the day and then writes my report and all that. What they don't realize, what a lot of people, which is why I said at the beginning that capacity building for every member of staff is very key. They do not know that. They think that because the ChatGPT is running on their laptop, like it's on their computer, that kind of thing, that, oh, if I put a document, they don't know that once you put that document, what you are doing is you are transmitting that information to a third party, so a lot of, even when they have controls in place, even when they have the policies phase, oh, we are not allowed to transmit, this kind of sensitive document, you find out that a lot of people are using shadow, and then there are all sorts of other GPTs that we don't even, ChatGPT is popular, but there's DeepSeek,
Yeah.
is Kimi K1. There are all sorts of these kinds of things. So you find out that people are just uploading documents, getting information. Imagine a situation where a hospital starts to do this, starts to upload people's health records into
Health information, yeah.
Yes, so those are huge challenges. And the thing is, it's a mindset thing. People don't even see anything wrong with it. They don't even think there's any, what is the implication? I'm just sending it to ChatGPT. That ChatGPT is no. So to them, it's almost like, until you start to explain to them that sending this document is like sending an email with an attachment of this document, and then you are emailing it to a third party, and then that third party is what, this thing is helping me. So those challenges are, there of people using Shadow GPT. So what we are recommending for a lot of organizations, obviously, if they want to still do that kind of thing as well, even with law firms, for instance, is, okay, if you want to do this, have a sort of like a cloud VPS where you have a virtual private connection only you. So if you're uploading and then you run your own model, which is obviously again where we think, Africa, there's an opportunity for even data centers to come up that offer that kind of service to organizations where you certify, okay, you're just the same way we have companies hosting emails, and then they're certified. And I think that's what.
So Shay, before you continue, I want to check with you. This recommendation you just made, is it safe? Because, okay, so I heard some gist recently about how an executive during a session mistakenly mentioned that he ran just the example you gave, some documentation through ChatGPT. But what he really meant was Copilot. So they said immediately he corrected himself that, oh, no, sorry, I used Copilot, and basically was trying to talk about how operations have improved. But, we've gotten to the point where, the way everybody call Colgate close up, like from way back where we know this popular brand as Omo, so every soap is Omo, that kind of thing. So I think that's what the guy meant. But literally, he was saying, and he could announce it, that he ran reports and stuff through what's it called, Copilot, Microsoft Copilot. So is it safe to say that organizations can leverage their licensed Copilot for their infrastructure in this particular way?
Yes, if it's Copilot, because Copilot was built with the enterprise in mind. ChatGPT is a consumer application, general purpose. So think about ChatGPT like using Gmail, for instance. Copilot is more like using Office 365. So because it's given by Microsoft, so that when anything happens, so if, for instance, I use Copilot for something, and then later on I discover my data out there in the wild that I have imputed in Copilot, then I have an organization to go and meet and say, oh, Microsoft, you must have signed it. There's an SLA, there is an NDA, all these kinds of stuff. So there's an entity that is responsible, for that. So yes, for Copilot, for organizations, and that is what we actually advocate. You see, if you look at the way AI assistants work, so when you want to do, let's say you want to use ChatGPT or Gemini, you take your data to it. So you attach company data. So you attach like a PDF, you attach a record to it, and then you upload it. Okay. Now, when you use something like Copilot, what you're doing is you are taking the AI to your resident data. So that means your data is already on your system. So you're just telling it, Copilot, just read it where it is, analyze it, and give me the information. So nothing is being transmitted. So those are those nuances that people who are in charge, especially the regulatory, the compliance people, have to say, okay, how are we leveraging this AI on our own data? What are some of those salient prints? So when you say, oh, my data is already in, say, SharePoint, and I'm just telling Copilot to go to my SharePoint, which leads to your second question about authorization and access control, that, okay, now this is where it comes in as well, that, okay, leverage my authorization and my access control I already have, because at the end of the day, a human is still going to access it somehow. So you leverage that to so that at the end of the day, despite the fact that we are all using Copilot within the organization, my Copilot cannot, authenticate as your Copilot and then read your data. It will only be able to access, my own data.
Okay. All right, good. I don't know. I don't know. It feels like I'm in one of those classrooms when you were training us in the past. I have another question that is even off script, and that's, so is it safe to say that because I leverage Copilot Enterprise at that level and it's going through my SharePoint or my storage, my repository, is it safe to say that I'm sort of, I've set up a local LLM? Is it safe to look at it that way?
No, that's not setting up local LLM. That's using So, okay, the way I will explain it is, before Office 365, we used to have mail servers that were resident, like Exchange servers. That Exchange server was resident on the company's network. You create those accounts and mailboxes on that server that belongs to the company. So nothing, even despite the fact that you are using Microsoft Exchange, nothing was transmitted to Microsoft. Out. Everything was resident. So if the server crashed, nothing Microsoft can even do about it. So that is running your own local LLM, where you take the model, you set up a server or an infrastructure, and then you leverage it and put the model on it. And that is only you can access that model. Only your organization would access that model. Even the creator of that model will not have access to it. So that's like using Exchange. Now with Office 365, you now find out that, okay, instead of running your own infrastructure, what you just do is you pay for your space in the cloud, Office 365, but you have some kind of SLA to say, yes, I may be on Office 365 as, Hyperspace. You would also be on Office 365 as its e-century. But both of us are in the Microsoft cloud. So when we use our Office application, email application, for instance, Outlook, connect, we're actually connecting to the infrastructure, but it is hosted by Microsoft. So Microsoft has certified and guaranteed that, we've done all the security checks, we've done all our certification, we are SOC 2 compliant, we are ISO compliant, we are this, and obviously, if something now happens there, then you can now, take steps, which is where data protection and all these things come on. So that's what Copilot offers right now.
Okay, so it's not local, but it's a tenancy. There's a tenancy